And we have a bunch of folks dialed in to join us this afternoon. So I'll just go ahead and start rolling. Welcome again to today's sneak peek webinar, Rituals, Routines, and Rewards That Recharge Your Life, which will be presented in its entirety later this year in just 2 months at Apartmentalize in 2018. Apartmentalize is in San Diego again. We're looking forward to this Southern California city with the most perfect weather in the country. We expect about 10,000 industry players to join you for networking and learning opportunities. Today in my office, I'm joined by my awesome colleague, Megan Fieri, from our marketing and communications team. Hi, Megan.
Hi, Clark. How are you?
I'm great. How about you?
Hi, everybody.
Step forward.
I will. Hi. So today we just, can I pause the slide? There we go. So we want to share 2 exciting opportunities for you guys that we have at the conference this year. The first one is our NAEI's Leadership Experience Series by Dale in partnership with Dale Carnegie. This is I believe the second year we've offered this. It is separate registration from the conference registration, and it is on June 13th, which is Wednesday from 10:30 to 5:30. The focus is to energize, motivate, and create accountability for team results. And so if you've already registered, you can log back in and add this to your registration. It is an additional fee. But some of the things you'll be learning is how to identify and embrace your personal leadership style, how to disagree agreeably and delegate effectively, how to coach others to improve their performance, and how to motivate and energize your team. So it's a great opportunity if you want to grow your leadership skills to participate in this. And you can learn more by going to the website, the link at the bottom, nahq.org/leadership. And the other item we have, so this is a new sort of program we've put together. We wanted to develop more of an experience for executives who are looking to continue and grow their career and their network and things like that. So we have a special program on Friday, June 15th from 8 to 3. It is included with your registration, so there's no additional fee. You just need to add it to your registration. So again, if you've already registered for the conference and you're interested in including this, you would just log back in and add it, and there is no additional charge for it. Or if you're not coming for the entire conference, which we hope you will, you can register for just this pass only, and that starts at $250. So there includes like a breakfast where you can network with your peers, followed by 3 specific breakout sessions that are applicable to executives who are learning to further their career path. And with that, I will turn over to your regularly scheduled programming.
Thank you, Megan.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for coming by the office. Today, we have a great team of experts that we've pulled together. They are superb and superior, and I'm really excited to present them to you today. Starting off is Virginia Love, who is Vice President of Leasing and Marketing at Waterton. In her role, Ms. Love is responsible for setting a strategic vision for all leasing and marketing strategy. Virginia's 25 years of experience in the multifamily housing expertise includes marketing technologies, rebranding and positioning, associate development, and lease-up strategies. Next up on the docket is Deborah Phillips, PhD and CPM. She's the president of Quadrillion, a real estate advisory firm. Debbie has more than 27 years of experience developing world-class leadership programs. Debbie is president of the Georgia Apartment Association, Georgia Apartment Education Foundation, and she's been the lead instructor for our PM program at UGA and Georgia Tech. In our lineup moving forward, we also have Jennifer Stachokas, who's the Senior Vice President of Marketing and Training for Pinnacle. She's responsible for corporate marketing, property marketing, training, and revenue management. She's worked at 2 of the largest property management firms focusing on new construction, marketing, digital marketing strategies, employee development, and corporate communication. Last but not least is Mark Hurley, who hails from Cyprus and County Tipperary, Ireland. He's the president of Highland Commercial Properties, Inc. HPC owns and manages its own 2,700 rental homes and apartments in Texas. Additionally, it also owns, manages, and develops rental apartments, houses, farms, and offices in London, Ireland, Italy, and Cyprus. I'll turn things over to Mark, who will moderate our panel for this afternoon. Hello, Mark.
Hi, good afternoon. Albert Einstein is purported to have said the most powerful force in the world is compound interest. The idea that small but consistent investments yield surprisingly large returns over time. Today, Jennifer Stachokas will identify small, easy, daily routines that, if made into habits, will have a compound interest effect on your time and your life. Dr. Debbie Phillips will teach you how to find the hidden time for those habits and many other joys by teaching you how to create chunks of time. And she will touch on how to identify your strengths so that you can establish a competitive edge. Then, in his novel Dune, Frank Herbert wrote, "Fear is the mind killer." And Tony Robbins says, you have to kill the fear monster while it's little. Virginia Love is going to talk to you about how to do your best thinking absent of fear. Without further ado, Jennifer Stachokas.
Thank you so much, Mark, and welcome everybody. I'm really excited to be here today to talk a little bit about some rituals and how we can get some routines in place in the morning, in the evening, and provide you some resources to really kickstart and end your day with a bang. So most successful people have a morning ritual, and for some it can be something as easy as having breakfast with their family. It may be something where they get out and take a walk or they exercise. For some, it's meditation. For others, it may be sitting down in the morning and actually writing a journal. And just a few pages of what they plan to focus on, maybe their thoughts, their fears, which Virginia is going to talk about, and maybe their hopes that they have. The point of this is not necessarily the activity itself, be it yoga, meditation, exercise, or eating with your family. It's the ritualization of that reflection. So it's the idea of taking some time to look inward and really examine yourself and think about what you want to get out of the day, the week, the month, or the year. So when I think about my own personal ritual, when I wake up in the morning, I have a very strict routine of what I do. And that routine involves getting up and doing a meditation anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. I also read a passage from a book that's called The Daily Stoic. And then I also get up and drink an 8-ounce glass of water. So I try and satiate my appetite from the night before. And again, what I'm talking does not necessarily mean that that's something that you have to do in your life, but that's just my ritual. And I think that gives you an idea of what your morning ritual can do. And what I find is having that ritual, it sets the foundation and the tone for my day. It's something that I look forward to and is a very positive influence on my life. So I talked about this passage that I read every day from the Daily Stoic, and it really allows me to reflect personally, and it provides me growth. It gives me something that I can focus on and work on every day that's something very positive in my life. It definitely sets the mindset of the day and allows me to face challenges that I may be overcoming. And this is actually the second year that I've been reading that book. And again, it's a daily passage, 366 passages that are in that book, which sometimes I have to double up each year. But what I'm focusing on this month is things that I can control and things that I cannot control. So when I think about what are those things in my life that I can control, those are the things I'm really going to focus on. And then when I'm also thinking about those things that are outside of my control or that I cannot control, what I'm really focusing on in those passages is how my reaction is going to be and what I'm going to do to overcome those objections. So I talked a little bit about my personal ritual. And again, some other things I'm going to share in my short time with you is some of the resources that I use. And I'll leave those for the end of my part of the presentation. But when I think about not only personal, I also think about what's my ritual as it relates to the morning in my professional life. And so I want to think about the action items that I'm going to share with you is coming up with a consistent plan of what needs to be looked at on a daily, monthly, quarterly, or annual basis to maximize performance. So I'm sure you've heard somebody in your life tell you that it takes 21 days to make a habit. And so I found that as I started reading those passages or as I started doing meditations, after 3 weeks, it just becomes habit. It's not something that I even have to think twice about. When I wake up in the morning, that's what I do. I write some things down. I listen to particular topics and really set my day. So when I think about professionally what those things are that I'm focusing on, maybe from a daily perspective, I'm looking at reputation management of our company and our properties, reading alerts about what people are saying about us. On a weekly report, I'm looking at our contact center reports, our lead management reports. From a monthly basis, I'm also looking at my internet listing services and my advertising success. From a quarterly basis, I'm performing quarterly business reviews with my main business partners and figuring out what's working for us and what's not working. And then from an annual basis, I'm creating a business plan and a strategy as well as my budget to really set forward with the year. So that's how I get the morning kick started. But then when we think about a nighttime routine, how do you wind down your day and how do you reflect on success? So one thing that I found has been a really good way is there's many variations of this, but asking yourself a couple different questions. And they can be, what bad habit did I curb today? You know, what was that one thing that I cut out of my life? How am I better today, you know, at the end of the day than I was at the beginning of the day? What were my actions, and am I proud of my actions and my words? And how can I improve? And if you end up reading anything in the Daily Stoic, it's on the basis of Stoicism. So for those of you that may not be familiar, it's really reflecting and providing ways to make yourself better. So really the morning begins with questions and preparation, whereas the evening concludes with more reflection and analysis of how the day went. So that tomorrow I can be more patient, I can be more effective, I can be free from fear, and I can be happier. It's also a loop that over a lifetime, it makes us more strong and it makes us more resilient. So one thing that I found to be extremely helpful is I find that my mind is always working, and it always seems to be working right before bedtime. So keeping a piece of paper or a journal right next to the bed and writing down ideas. Again, it could be the answers to those questions that I shared with you, or it could be those racing thoughts that are going through your mind and putting pen to paper and really putting them down. So when I wake up in the morning, I have that clear mind and I have a focus on what it is that I'm going to work on the following day. So now let's talk a little bit about, on my next slide, it's how can you prepare yourself mentally for what you can do an hour a day to make yourself better. And I think we all struggle with this. I'm sure Virginia, Mark, and Debbie will all agree with me that some days can be crazier and more hectic than others. But if you can really try and carve out a little bit of me time, something that's going to make you really feel fulfilled and that the end of the day was something really special to me, is really important. So something that my husband and I like to ask each other at the end of every day is, what good happened? What was the best thing that happened? Or what was something good that happened? And I love those days when I can't stop listing off all the amazing things that happened. And I think we all know that some days it's more of a struggle to come up with the best thing that happened or what those great things were. But the majority of days, my list is longer and longer of what it was that happened that was great. So when I think about what can I do to better my life, things that I think about is spending an hour in a yoga class, doing meditation twice a day when I wake up and before I go to bed, reading my daily passages. And the way to really make those things successful, I find for me, is putting them on a calendar. I live and die by my calendar, both personally and professionally. So I can't make excuses as much if things are written on my calendar. So I always try and put my yoga classes on there so I can't make an excuse why I can't get there. And so just a couple quick resources that I want to share on how I establish my routines. So the Daily Stoic I have in 2 places. I get an actual email every day, and it's a nice passage that takes place. I also have the passage that I read in that book that I believe you can see on the screen. And then a couple other things. I included the Bella Beat app, which is how I do my meditations every day. They're guided meditations. And then a couple things that I read professionally and personally that kind of kickstart my day is I religiously look at the LinkedIn Daily Rundown. It tells me a quick snapshot of news. I also read the Ladders emails, and it's a great way to grow yourself personally and professionally. It gives you some great tips on how to better yourself in the workforce. And then my dear friend Sarah gave me the great recommendation on the Skimm. And again, it's similar to the LinkedIn Daily Rundown, but it's kind of a fun way, a pop art way to talk about daily news and what's happening in the world. So now I'm going to turn it over to Debbie.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm excited to be here. And if you've ever been around me, you'll know that I'm going to give you a book to read or suggest something that you can have just to think about. And the favorite book of the week or the year, I would say, is this book. And Clark, you can put it on the screen. It's called Deep Work by Cal Newport. And I'm reminded by the quote that you don't get what you want, you get what you focus on. And in order to have extreme focus, I think all of us need to create more margin in our schedules. And by that, I know everyone on this webinar, if we've ever gone to the office, we've gotten sucked in, whether it be an email or a conversation with a colleague. So just some real quick tips that Cal Newport recommends is come early or leave late. I'm an early person and I like to be in the office when it's quiet, or not even go to the office at all when I'm doing my best work. The other thing he recommends is when you are involved in a project that all of us, you might agree that you get your best work done in your blue jeans, so as to speak. And so we just have to find whatever's comfortable for us. There's no one size fits all. But another thing he says is create chunks in between. If you know that you can find some gaps of time to really do some of your best work. And probably one of the best things in this book that I've learned from Cal is to develop a craftsman's mentality. All of us, we wouldn't be attending this webinar if we didn't have a deep commitment to our personal and professional development. So Cal talks about a craftsman's mentality. When you have a craftsman's mentality, you're doing everything you can to go deeper into that project so it can really be the best it can possibly be. Something that I wanted to also share with you, another great book, if you want to advance the slide, is Time Tactics for Successful People. This particular book was written by a Georgia Tech guy named Eugene Greisman. And whether you manage others or manage yourself, this is probably one of the best resources I've ever had on time management. And it's just very practical and solid advice. And Clark, you can just quick through these quick bullet points. Plan the call before you make it. If you think about what's the most important headline or the most important topic that you need to talk about on that call, have an agenda, stick to the time frame, but don't ever leave a meeting that you don't assign the task. Who's got the monkey, so as to speak, which is another great book called Managing Your Monkey, or The 1 Minute Manager Meets the Monkey. But the other thing that I wanted to share with you before we go or turn it over to Virginia is we talk about in real estate the highest and best use of real estate, or the highest and best use of your property. And I just encourage you to think about what is your highest and best use? Where is your contribution? Many times people say to me, Debbie, how do I figure that out? Clark is going to show you the next three on the next slide. I have shared just a few books, or not books, but resources as to how you can find out what are your best strengths. And on the next slide, I would highly recommend any of you, or if you are leading other team members that are trying to identify what are my strengths, what are the things that I should be competing on. The first one I would recommend is the Gallup Strength Finder. And if you've taken any of the NAA courses through Gallup, you already know how valuable they are. But this Strength Finders 2.0 is phenomenal. You list your strengths 1 to 34. Anytime you get out of your top 5 or 6 strengths, you're in uncharted territory. Strength Finders is a phenomenal resource. The other one, obviously, is an oldie but a goldie, and it's Myers-Briggs. Most of us are familiar with that. And certainly the third one is the DISC profile. And I enjoy using these as I teach career development, which I'm off to class in about 30 minutes. We talk about these assessments all the time. But I think it's really important that we encourage one another. You know, you don't need to be jealous or competitive of someone else's accomplishments, because you have your own. And it's important to identify those strengths. But most of the time, the reason we're not competing on our strengths is because A, we don't know what they are, or we're afraid of success, which leads right into what Virginia talks about, overcoming fear. Take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Debbie and Jennifer. I'm making notes crazy. I love this topic. I think it's going to be awesome for June. So two of the things that I wanted to talk about really quickly were overcoming fear and self-doubt. Another item we're going to talk about is positive self-talk. So if you forward the slide for me, Clark, the thing that I tell myself over and over again is I have these three mantras that don't pick goals where the stakes are low. It's not, if it's too close to where I am, it's not really a good goal for me. Nobody is rooting for me to fail. I have to remind myself that all the time, because typically if somebody is, it's probably me internally trying to root myself to fail. And stop making uncertain things certain. So those are three things that I sort of live by when I talk about self-doubt and fear. And I like to tell everybody, give yourself some credit. You know, where does fear originate? It originates in worry. I'm a little bit of a worrywart, I'll be honest with you. I worry when I don't have anything to worry about. That's how big of a worrywart that I can be. So I have to acknowledge that in myself, and I look for signs. You know, any type of fear that you have, whether it's spiders or flying or health issues or heights or change in general, all of those fears are on equal ground, but you can identify them very easily. There's a great TED Talk, a great interview with Mel Robbins. I've got a quote up here, "Fear is not the problem, you are." If you've never seen it, it's called Overcoming Fear and the Secret of Self-Motivation. It's the best 21 minutes and 45 seconds you'll spend on yourself. And she talks about how our brains are not designed to do things that are difficult and uncertain and scary. You know, your brain is designed to stop and protect you. So, you know, she asked a very simple question of why is it so hard to do the little things to improve my life, or the little things that just kind of scare me. And she gives some great tips, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in June. The other things that she talks about is that, you know, is something called the spotlight effect. And what that is, it's where your brain magnifies when there's a risk in front of you or a big change in front of you or a fear, and it makes you hesitate, to recognize that silence and know that that hesitation is your indicator that you're pausing. And that pause is good, but you got to learn how to look at the signals and weigh the risk yourself. So I'm real excited about y'all to take a look at that 21 minutes and 45 seconds. It's great time spent. On the next slide, when we talk about positive talk, when I leased apartments, and I did start off in the industry leasing apartments a million years ago with Trammell Crow. I've known Debbie for 20 years, which is so fun. Carol Gardner, who's the Vice President of Education, I believe, or Training and Development with AMLI, she was my leasing trainer. And she gave me the best tip, and she probably doesn't even know that I use this beyond leasing apartments in almost every area of my life. And she was talking about feature and benefit selling. You know, the feature is the breakfast bar. The benefit is what the breakfast bar does for you. The breakfast bar lets your kids have breakfast without messing up the table. It gives you a place to entertain. It's an extra seating, all these things. But she taught me to say, so what? So when you said this is the breakfast bar, so what? The so what are all those things the breakfast bar does for you. That so what became my leasing superpower. It really was, because it's the heart of feature benefit sales. And I still use that phrase. Anytime I say something, I try to make sure I go, okay, so what? What does that mean? Is there any power behind that? Am I explaining myself thoroughly? You know, and especially when it comes to positive self-talk, if I say something or think something negatively about myself, or I get in a place where I'm like kind of worried that I'm not going to be able to get out of like all the work is piling up on you. Sometimes just saying that little bit of so what's going to give me the opportunity to sort of refocus. We also talk to ourselves all the time. I don't think people realize that 76% of the time we're talking to ourselves, and that 76% we're talking about negative stuff, things that are counterproductive and damaging. We're going to talk more about that specifically in June, about how to correct that self-talk so you're talking to yourself more positively. There's a great book called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. I know Debbie's a big fan of this book. I'm a big fan of this book. And it just gives you 5 levels of self-talk that you can get through, like negativity and acceptance, decisions to make change, to make yourself better. I know we're going to hit on some of those things in San Diego as well. I'm excited about that. Yeah, big, right, Debbie? Big. So we'll dig more into that part of the conversation when we're all together in San Diego. My last slide is just a couple of things. I thought Jennifer was brilliant in giving you some suggestions of stuff. So I came up with 3 that I use and have loved. And I was going to give you all an action item of picking one and maybe adapting one until we get to San Diego in June, and then hunt Jennifer down with hers and say, hey, I'm trying this. I'm reading the Skim. I'm using the Think Up app. But these are 3 that I really enjoy. The Think Up app is all about, it was rated one of the top motivational apps of 2017. And what it talks about is like being productive and focus is a weapon against stress and negativity. That's basically what Think Up and the Way of Life app are there for. Think Up lets you set affirmations about whatever you were going through in your life, whether it's about relationships or kids or work or whatever. And you can go through and it kind of puts you in a more positive mindset. Speaking of self-talk, you can record those affirmations in your own voice, which is very powerful. You can add photos to it, a song, and you can just do a string of them, of anything that you want, or as few as you want. And then you just put it on your phone, have your earbuds in, listen to it in the morning. And I'm going to tell you, when you hear yourself say something, it's different than you hearing somebody else say something or a stranger say something. It's a really powerful tool. The Way of Life app, while Jennifer said it was 21 days to change a habit, this is one that measures your habits. It says habit on, habit off, whatever you want to do. I'm doing one right now. You may have noticed I'm trying to improve my posture. I get real slouchy. And it's an app that it says on your phone, it tells you the data of when you were doing it better, because it checks in with you and it makes you go in and check and say, yes, I did it. I drank a glass of water. I'm doing my posture. I'm being more positive. I'm managing my inbox. And they have a list of habits, or you can put your own in there. And what they're doing is they're using the data to help you change. So it's 21 days. It's all totally free, and you can see your behavior and change your behavior and your routine so you can get that habit, set that habit, or break that habit. Last but not least, my favorite book of a couple years ago was The Year of Yes, Shonda Rhimes. Now, in full disclosure, I did this before she did, but I didn't write a book. But that's okay. You know, she's the one that's responsible for about 70 hours of television, Grey's Anatomy, Scandal, everything that everybody watches. And she had a lot of self-doubt and a lot of worry, and she found herself in a rut. And she talks about the hum and finding the hum. And when you lose it, how do you get the hum? Is there a new hum? It's a fantastic book. She said yes to everything for a year, because she said I'd said no so many times that I just threw myself at my fear of saying yes, of speaking, of going on a hike, of leaving my kids for a weekend, and just did it, and how much it changed her life. It's not just a book, it's a fantastic TED Talk as well. If you have a minute to listen to that, I highly recommend it. So those are the 3 that I wanted to suggest everybody try, and then we'll talk about it in June.
Thank you,
so now
everyone.
I'm going to send it back to Mark. Yeah, sorry, Mark.
Wonderful. That you packed a lot into just a few minutes, and I look forward tremendously to your expanding on all of these subjects in June. And so everybody on the call, we hope you enjoyed this taste of what is to come. There is more to come. Clark, could you bring up the next slide? Thank you. Some of the additional topics, as well as expanding upon what you've heard today, are we'll talk about feed forward versus feedback, the Johari window, turning a crisis into a creative opportunity, visioneering, and the unveiling of Debbie's Peas. So we look forward to seeing you at Apartmentalize. And as Benjamin Disraeli, one of the great statesmen of the 19th century said, nurture your mind with great thoughts, or you will never go any higher than you think. Clark, everybody, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mark. Can you please remind us when the session will take place within the context of the conference, Mark?
Yes, the session will take place at, and I forgot I was supposed to tell you, 1:45, I believe it's on the Wednesday, which would be June 14th?
That's June 13th, yeah.
June 13th.
So yeah, we're starting earlier this year than we ever have before. This is actually the second block of breakout sessions on Wednesday. The first block starts at 12:30. So lots and lots of programming on Wednesday. Come early.
Speaking of early, how much a discount?
Oh, thank you for reminding me, Debbie. Tomorrow is one of the deadlines for registration, and if you register by tomorrow, you make significant savings. On Monday, the pricing goes up. So if you want to go and you haven't registered, I would try and focus on that now. Thanks for the reminder, Debbie. If you enjoyed this webinar and thought it was useful and helpful to you, it is one in a series of 6 that we have leading up to the conference. I think this was the 3rd one. So there's a little bit more stuff coming down the pike. I just wanted to sort of run it by you so that you know that you can look forward to that moving forward. So we have a webinar coming up at the beginning of May that talks about really being able to connect with people in a human way in a digitally driven world, something that I think is probably useful to lots of folks. And then we have an excellent team of folks who are going to focus on marketing and leasing, which should be really interesting. That's the end of May, May 24th. And last but not least, if you dial in just about a week before the event, we're going to have a pre-conference planning webinar. And that will give you an overview of the event, some of the highlights not to miss, and how to develop a strategy to make the most of your time. Thanks everybody for dialing in, and especially to our talented team for the wealth of information they shared with us today. They'll continue the conversation at the conference in June in San Diego, and we invite you to join us there. The sneak peek presentation is just one offering in a lineup of 70 breakout sessions focused on multifamily housing operations. Be sure to use the event, register for the event using the link on this slide. And you're going to say, well, that's a really long string to remember, but fear not. This webinar has been recorded, and we're going to post it to the event website. You'll receive a follow-up email with a link to the recording in a couple of days. So you have all the details there at your fingertips. And we look forward to seeing you all in San Diego. Thanks to my great team of panelists, to my colleague Olivia, and to everybody who dialed in today. Have a great rest of your week and a good weekend. Bye-bye.
Hey, thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.